Chapter 24. Lucas screamed in pain as Victor healed him near their campfire. Bits of wood, rock, and metal oozed out of holes in his gut, while blood flowed in around them. After a moment, Victor's eyes stopped glowing, and Lucas breathed deeply. "Glad to have you back," said Sig with a wide smile. "Thanks, Sig," replied Lucas as he rubbed the skin on his stomach to ensure the wounds had closed. "Okay, Victor," said Kirana. Her tone did nothing to mask her impatience. "Let's get back to Jonathan." "Give him a minute," said Jennifer in a reprimanding tone. "Quit being lazy, Jennifer," thundered Kirana. "Hey," said Victor, "there's no need for that." Jennifer shot Kirana a triumphant look, even though she had really only raised her voice to give herself additional resting time. "Jonathan hasn't eaten in days," said Kirana in a low tone. "He didn't get the tournament buffet that you got. If you can just—" "It's okay," said Victor. "I'll come with you. Maybe the others can stay with Lucas for now. We shouldn't wear ourselves out, though." Kirana pressed her lips together, but as she was unable to think of anything to say in response, she turned and began walking back the way that she and Lucas had come. "I would prefer not to stay here," said Row-82 to no one in particular. He picked up his pack and tightened the fabric straps on his shoulders. He wiped off the moisture that had accumulated on the plates behind his ears and followed after Kirana. Jennifer was not happy that Victor was leaving, but she did not want to immediately change her mind about going either. She had wanted Victor to stay with her, but she did not want to make her motivations public, fearing that her feelings might frighten Victor away. "Be careful, Victor," she said as she pulled a lock of blonde hair behind her ear. "I'll see you soon," he said confidently. He began following after Kirana on the rocky shore. "Will you be all right?" Sig asked Stephanie. Stephanie nodded as she held her hands toward the flames to stay warm. Sig smiled and rushed after Victor and Kirana. Jennifer walked next to Stephanie. "So it's the three of us," said Jennifer awkwardly. She looked over at Lucas. He had already fallen asleep. She pulled a blanket out of a pack that Lizard had left for them and pulled it over Lucas to help keep him warm. Then she sat down next to Stephanie. "So it's pretty much just the two of us," said Jennifer. Stephanie unzipped the bib of her overalls and retrieved a pad of paper and a pen. Jennifer smiled widely. "I'm glad we finally have a chance to talk," said Jennifer as she looked up at the sky. Small embers rose from the fire with the smoke up in the cold air. "I mean, Kirana doesn't really talk to anyone, and I feel awkward talking to just the guys. See, I kind of like Victor, but I don't know if he likes me. I mean, sometimes—" She turned her head to face Stephanie as she spoke and realized that Stephanie had a frown of disappointment on her face and a message scribbled on the pad of paper that said, "I don't want to talk about men." "Oh," said Jennifer softly as she lowered her head. Stephanie scribbled another message on the paper. "Sorry, it's just not my favorite subject right now. Another time," said the note on the page. Jennifer looked at the note and then back at Stephanie, who had a more sympathetic look on her face. Jennifer pressed her lips together and nodded. "All right," she said softly, "although I would like your help later." Stephanie smiled and nodded as she scribbled another note on her paper. "How did you get your key?" said the note on the paper. Jennifer pulled the chain holding her key and placed the mirrored relic in the palm of her hand. She stared at it as the orange and yellow flickering from the fire reflected on its smooth surfaces. "I don't remember," said Jennifer. "It feels like I've always had it, although that can't be right." "Do you remember being a little girl?" read a new note scribbled on the page. Jennifer let her key go and bit her lower lip. She had not really thought about being a child, but obviously she was not born an adult. She had to have had parents. She had to have matured at some point and in some time. As she focused, an image came to her mind. She was running towards someone, carrying what seemed to be broken links of a chain. Though the image was blurry, she could tell that there was a man reaching out his hand to her. He was being dragged away. "Nothing," said Jennifer at last. Stephanie flipped up the top sheet of the pad of paper and wrote on the back. She held her new note up so Jennifer could read it. "You remembered something," read the note. "I don't know," said Jennifer. "Everything is so jumbled." Stephanie added a word to her note. "Please," read the note. She widened her eyes to show the sincerity of the request. Jennifer took a deep breath. "I was holding some broken chain links," said Jennifer, "and I was trying to get to someone who was hurt." Stephanie put the pen with which she had been writing back behind her ear and tilted her head as she considered what Jennifer had said. "What are you thinking?" asked Jennifer at last. Stephanie turned to Jennifer and scratched her head. After another moment, she retrieved her pen and wrote another note. "I just have this feeling that you are very important to the big picture," said the note. Jennifer did not know what to say in response. Stephanie scribbled another note. "I had a vision with you in it," said the note. "Really?" asked Jennifer. Stephanie nodded. "Before the ship sank, I saw you and Victor fighting against Angelica," said the note. "You knew what would happen?" gasped Jennifer. Stephanie added another note. "I was shown exactly what would happen to you, and it wasn't the first time," said the note. "Wasn't the first time?" whispered Jennifer in disbelief. "When Erica died," said another note. Tears welled up in Stephanie's eyes. Jennifer's eyes widened. "Wait, I was supposed to die?" said Jennifer. "I saw you being attacked. I don't know if you were supposed to die," said another note. "You told Erica what would happen," observed Jennifer in a sad voice. Stephanie nodded and wrote another note. "Yes, but I didn't see what would happen to her. Only you," said the note. Jennifer gave Stephanie a surprised look. After another moment, Stephanie added another note to her pad. "Are you sure you can't remember something more about how you got your key?" asked the note. Jennifer closed her eyes and focused. She strained to retrieve her memories. She found that her memory was improving. When Lizard had rescued her from the slavers that were hoping to sell her, she could not recall the function of her divine key. Now she could remember painful conversations with Erica Kingsley as she pled with her to find a way to save Peter after Joshua's insane betrayal. She could remember Drew Baker's sacrifice that saved her. As she continued to think, the sensation of cold in the moist air and warmth from the crackling fire diminished. The images of her mind grew stronger. She had felt these sensations before, when dreamlike visions had allowed her to relive her memories. She found herself in a dark forest. Though aspen leaves on the white-barked trees shook with the air, she could feel no wind. The place seemed familiar to her. There were gray rocks and small shrubs under the canopy of large pine boughs. She looked around, hoping to find something that explained the sensation that she had been there before. "What? Where?" came a voice from behind her. She looked around and saw herself sitting up and rubbing her head. Her other self had her hair tied up. She was wearing a dark red satin dress with ornate golden embroidery on it. She watched in confusion as her other self got up and looked around. "Well, what have we here?" came the voice of a woman on a rocky ridge above. Both Jennifers whirled around and looked up. There was a woman in a black cloak looking down on them. "Hello," said Jennifer's other self. "Perhaps you can help me." "No, she can't," said Jennifer. "She's a speed demon worshipper." The black-cloaked woman rushed down and drew a knife. "Perhaps you can help me," said the acolyte. "Oh my," said Jennifer as she backed up nervously. "I don't know how you got here," said the acolyte, "but unfortunately you've come across our Grith production facility." "I'm sorry," said Jennifer's other self. "What does that mean?" "Grith was a drug," said Jennifer. As she was only an observer in the vision, no one responded to her. "Are you serious?" asked the acolyte. "Yes, and would you mind putting that knife away?" asked Jennifer's other self. The acolyte roared with laughter. Jennifer's other self backed up and folded her arms nervously. "Let me tell you how this will work," said the acolyte. "If you make a lot of noise, then my master will know that you're here, and I'll have to bring him to you. He will torture you to death. On the other hand, if you stay calm, then I can kill you quickly, and your life will help power my key." "Those both seem like bad options," said Jennifer's other self. "Maybe," said the acolyte, "but one of them is much better than the other, although the choice is yours. What will you do?" Jennifer's other self cleared her throat, then spun around and tried to run. The speed demon acolyte rushed right by her and blocked her escape. "You're very fast," confessed Jennifer's other self. "Yes," said the acolyte with a smile, "except when I sacrifice humans." She slowly walked up toward Jennifer, holding her blade. Jennifer's other self backed up and tripped on a root. The acolyte giggled sadistically as she approached. Suddenly a shot rang out, and the acolyte slumped down on the ground. Jennifer and her other self whirled around, looking for the source of the shot. A tall, handsome man with short dark hair and dark blue eyes walked out from the woods. He had a large handgun in his right hand. He was wearing a cardinal t-shirt and blue jeans, and he had a small backpack on his back. He stowed his handgun in a black fabric holster on his chest. "Are you all right?" said the man. "I don't know," said Jennifer's other self. "Are you going to try human sacrifice?" "No," said the man with a smile, "although I don't have a problem taking out grith cookers and demon worshippers." "Grith cookers? Demon worshippers?" asked Jennifer's other self. "Have you been living in a time capsule or something?" asked the man. Jennifer's other self looked down at her dress and then back at the acolyte. "Maybe," she said. The man laughed softly. "Well, if you did, you picked a heck of a time to come out," said the man. "My name is Peter Kingsley. Who are you?" "Jennifer Cedar," she said with a smile. She leaned forward to get back to her feet, and her divine key slid out from underneath her dress. Peter gasped. "Where did you get that?" whispered Peter in awe. Jennifer watched in anticipation. Perhaps she would finally know the place from which she came. Perhaps she would finally know why the divine keys had been created, and what she and her friends were supposed to be doing with the gifts they had been given. "I don't remember," answered Jennifer's other self. The vision swirled around and faded away. Jennifer frowned in frustration. She had hoped to learn something that would help Stephanie. As she opened her eyes, the feeling that she was late welled up in her stomach. "Sorry, Stephanie, I just couldn't," she started. She realized it was not Stephanie seated next to her, but a familiar bald woman with pale skin and a green cape. There were tattoos all over her neck and chest. She was the surviving asset of Miranda Drake, the Death Witch from Angelica's tournament. She tilted her head as though she were disappointed that Jennifer had stopped speaking. "Please continue," said the woman in a low voice. "What is it that you were unable to do?"